Hello, welcome to today's English language lesson. In today's lesson, we are looking at some common mistakes in English, and our focus, we are basing it on the written aspects. So we are going to look at some words in pairs that some users use them wrongly, they use them interchangeably. So by the end of this lesson, you would be able to use each of the ways we will be looking at in this lesson in the right context. The first pair of words we are looking at, we have heard, then we have heard. So with heard, which is the past tense of the verb hear, and it actually means to perceive with the ear. So when you hear sound, when you perceive sound with your ear, that means you have heard. You have heard. So it's a past tense of the verb to hear. When we talk of tense, tense is a feature of the verb. Nouns don't have tense. We don't have tense when it comes to nouns. We can talk of singularity and plurality in nouns, but for tense it's peculiar to verbs. Then we have head, which can be referred to one, the uppermost parts of the human body. Now before I continue with this, it's important to know that head is an ambiguous word. When we say a word is ambiguous, it means that it has more than one meaning. So the context in which the word head is used will determine what it actually means. So it's advisable not to just see the word head and assume that it always means a particular thing. Its meaning can change depending on the context of use. So it can refer to the uppermost parts of the human body. So you can, this is my head. Then the top or highest point of something can also be referred to as head. And when a person or an individual is in charge of, for example, an organization or a department, then the person can be called the head of the organization, the head of the department, the head of an institution. Great, so let's look at some examples on how to use these words. So we have the head is in his office. Here we are referring to an individual, a person, so we are going in for the noun head, referring to someone who is in charge of maybe a department, for example, but not referring to the past tense of here, and that's why head, which is the past tense of here, is underlined and also in red. That's danger. It's not correct, though it is a word in the English language, but the context in which it has found itself or it has been used, it's wrong. So the word in itself is correct, but there is something wrong with the sentence or the structure because of the wrong usage of that word. The next sentence, we have the student carried the book on his head. So the student carried the book on his head. So at this moment we are not referring to the leader of an organization or one who is in charge of an organization, but we are referring to the uppermost part of the human body. So the student carried the book on his head. Great. Then we look at the next sentence. I heard Mary singing. I heard Mary sing. So in this case, I, that's a speaker, perceived sound from an individual called Mary. And so the person says, I heard Mary singing. That's a past tense of to hear. So to perceive sound with the ear. Then our last sentence on the slide, we have you heard the sound of the trumpet? Have you heard the sound of the trumpet? So that's a question. And so we are looking out for the past tense of hear, but not referring to the uppermost part of the human body. Neither are we referring to the other one we saw was someone who is in charge of an organization. No, we're not referring to any of that, but referring to someone perceiving sound, the sound of a trumpet. So we use the verb heard, which is in the past tense. Great. So let's move on to our next pair of words. We have bear, that can refer to a person or part of the body which is not covered. So when someone is not covered, say the person is bare. It can also refer to something that is without addition. It is in its basic or simple form. It is in its basic form. When we talk of verbs, for example, we have the bare form of verbs. We have the bare form of verbs. So we have the verb hear, H-E-A-R, to hear. It is in its bare state. Nothing has been added. But when it is inflecting for the past tense, then something is added. So it is H-E-A-R. When we add a D to it, then we have the past tense. We have the word kick, K-I-C-K, in its bare form. When we add an ed to it, we have kicked. So when we say something is bare, maybe it's uncovered, or it is in its basic form without any addition. Then we have bear at the right side of the screen, which means to carry the weight or burden of something or of someone. He bore our iniquities. That's the past tense of the word bear. He bore our iniquities. It also means to support or sustain something, to endure or tolerate. So when you have to endure something or you have to tolerate someone, you can as well use that word. We will see relevant examples that will help us understand this better. It can also mean to give birth, to produce an offspring. To produce an offspring. It can also refer to an animal. There is a specific animal that also bears this particular name. Alright, so what's this? You can see on your screen, this is an animal. Is it a cat? What animal is this? I'm sure you're trying to guess. In our next slide, now we see the same word. So that's the name of this animal, as we mentioned in our previous slide. It could refer to an animal. Alright, so I hope you are enjoying this lesson. If you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, kindly do so. As we move on to look at the next slide, we have the usage of bear. In our first sentence, we say an infertile woman can't bear children. So we are actually saying that she cannot give birth, she can produce offspring. So we use BEAR. We're not referring to something that is uncovered or something that is in its basic form. No. And so it's wrong to use BARE. Then we have I can no longer bear the attitude of my boss. In other words, maybe I can no longer endure or I can no longer tolerate the attitude of my boss. So we have BEAR. The bear is in the forest, referring to an animal. So in this case, the first two sentences, it's a verb, but in the third one, it's actually a noun. It's actually a noun, and that's why we have the definite article coming before it. Apart from the position it is occupying, we also have the definite article coming before it. So it's so clear. It is a noun, and that is the animal we saw in our previous slide. Alright, so our fourth sentence here, we have used the verb form of the verb instead. Use the verb form of the verb instead. So like I said earlier, verbs can be in their verb forms when nothing is added. We say it is in its bare form, and I gave examples of that already. So in this case, we use BARE and not BEAR. Then we have the baby's feet are bare. The baby's feet are bare. That means that the baby's feet are not covered. The baby's feet are not covered. So we say the baby's feet are bare. Alright, so we move on to look at our next pair of words. We have build, which means to construct something by putting parts or material together. Then we have built, which is the past and past participle of the word build. So in our usage of these two words, we have I will build a house for my mom. I will build a house for my mom. It is therefore not correct to say I will build a house for my mom, but it should be I will build a house for my mom. When you use the verb will, then you can't bring build. You can't bring build. Together we shall build this nation. Together we shall build this nation. In our third sentence, he built a reputation for being reliable. So in this case, we are using built and not build. We are using built. He built a reputation for being reliable. Then our last sentence, 2 more gas stations were built. So if you observe, the last 2 sentences actually refer to something that has happened, something that is in the past. He built a reputation. 2 more gas stations were built. But in the first 2 sentences, I will, we shall. So you take note of that. It will help you in your constructions. Great. So thank you so much for joining me in today's lesson. If you haven't subscribed, don't forget to do so. Kindly subscribe. More of these episodes and much more will be coming your way when you hit the subscribe button. Whenever we upload a video, then you can be notified. Thank you so much, and have a great day. Bye.